The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today's Wednesday. It's kind of like Friday, but not quite. Anyway, third day of July 2024. Thanks so much for joining us, whoever you are, wherever you are. We're just glad to have you right here, right now. This is our second live broadcast of the day. The first live broadcast is our live training room, and that's reserved for members only and those who are taking their 1 week free trial. If you have not taken your 1 week free trial, go to mytradingiq.com. At the very top of the page, there's a link that says 5-day free trial, no credit card required. Click the link, fill out the registration form, hit submit, and typically same day, we'll get your desktop set up, get your indicators indicating, and then your 5-day free trial will start the following day. Now you might be thinking, well, today's Wednesday, the market's closed on Thursday, I should wait. You should not wait. There's never been a better time than right now because, we'll get you all set up today. Now keep in mind that even though tomorrow's a holiday, some markets will be trading. Forex will be trading, crypto will be trading, even E-minis will be trading on the Globex session. But here's my point. We'll get you set up today because tomorrow's a holiday. That won't count against you. So you'll be able to come into the room and enjoy all the benefits our passport holders have access to Friday. Then the weekend won't count against you. And then we're going to give you all of next week, Monday through Friday. So I think I just turned a 5-day free trial into a 9-day free trial. I did. So don't tarry, because in fact you should go do it right now if you're going to do it, because this afternoon Michael's going to get busy and you might not have a chance to get your desktop set up and your indicators indicating. So you want to make sure that you do that right now. If you want to take the trial, mytradingiq.com, just click the link at the top of the page. Now, you're going to get a registration page. Now, this is automated, so you got to make sure you fill it out properly before you hit submit. Once you hit submit, you will shortly hear from us, and we'll do the things I said. Get your desktop set up, get your indicators indicating, and then you're good to go all the way through next Friday. This could be a first. Anyway, when the live training room ends every day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we come back at 12 noon Eastern for this broadcast, the afternoon broadcast. Now, on a typical day, Michael joins us about 12:45, 12:50 for a recap of the live training room, and then we do some live trading on TradingView for 30 minutes. He will not be joining us today. He's getting set up for another webinar he's doing this afternoon. Okay. However, we will still do our daily devotional, our daily prayer. Got a couple news articles to share, and then we'll do a quick recap of the logic alerts and the concierge trade alerts, and I'll wrap things up with our good word for the day. My goal is to get it all done in about 45 minutes. Okay? All right. So, when the live training room ends and we take that 30-minute break and come back at noon, there's two different ways you can join this afternoon broadcast live. Here's the best way, because you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com, scroll down the page to where it says afternoon broadcast. Click the link, complete the 30-second registration form, and you're done. Not only will it get you in today, but every trading day going forward, you'll get an email about an hour before this broadcast starts. In that email, there's a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it will automatically log you into our platform. Now, of course, and the benefit is that you'll have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Now, there'll be days when you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join live. You can. There'll be days when you're busy and can't join live, but want to catch up later. You can do that too. I'm talking about our YouTube channel. youtube.com/CFRN. You already have the YouTube part memorized, so all you got to remember is CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, we're simulcasting in two different places. We also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently on our YouTube channel, there are over 2,600 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And if you're new to the world of CFRN, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. Not just today, not just this week, not just this month. Thanks to the power of YouTube, you can scroll back 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more. You can see how we've evolved over time. Obviously, you're not going to watch them all. Just pick some days at random. Watch a little bit, fast forward a little bit. Watch a little bit, fast forward a little bit. Of course, the more recent ones will be more relevant, but you're welcome to look at any of them. That's why we archive them. youtube.com/CFRN. So let's go to our daily devotional. Now, we just finished our devotion on the 23rd Psalm. That was 3 days. For the next 7 days, we're going to talk about The Chosen, Season 4. Now, I don't think I need to give you a spoiler alert, because if you've read the Bible, that's, what it's about. In fact, today's scripture, Luke 1, verses 39 through 45. I'm going to share with you from the Message translation. Now, keep in mind, we're going to be on this topic for the next 7 days. So if over the holiday, you might want to jump on your computer or your TV and go watch the first 3 seasons of The Chosen, that would be great. All right, starting in verse 39 of Luke 1, Mary didn't waste a minute. She got up and traveled to a town in Judah, in the hill country, straight to Zechariah's house, and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby in her womb leaped. She was filled with the Holy Spirit and sang out exuberantly, "You're so blessed among women, and the babe in your womb also blessed. And why am I so blessed that the mother of my Lord visits me? The moment the sound of your greeting entered my ears, the babe in my womb skipped like a lamb for sheer joy. Blessed woman, who believed what God said, believed every word would come true." Now, you probably know the baby in her belly. That was John the Baptist, Jesus' cousin. Centuries before Jesus, Isaiah spoke out about the Messiah's arrival and said someone else would arrive beforehand. A voice crying out in the wilderness, clear a way for the Lord. Construct in the desert a road for our God. That's Isaiah 40, verse 3. As it turns out, John the Baptizer is that guy. But why would Jesus, the Messiah, need someone to clear a way or construct a road for him? Imagine carving a trail through stubborn wilderness that's existed long before you. You're working against the established thorns and boulders, making it possible to go somewhere new. The path becomes a departure from the way things have been for a long time. Elizabeth and her husband, Zechariah, a priest, have a miracle baby in their old age. Then an angel tells them to name him John, radically departing from the social norm of fathers giving sons established family names. Most unexpected of all, they later allow their own and only son to go live in the wilderness. Everything about John's story says that life with Jesus will not be a minor adjustment. This is a totally new way of life, and it cuts against all that existed before. Had Jesus intended to support and empower the popular religious establishment, John would have prepared the way by staying in Jerusalem, wearing priestly clothing, and working at the temple with his father. Instead, he leaves the temple in Holy City to dwell in the desert. He wears camel skins and eats locusts and honey while baptizing people, urging them to turn from average expectations and ways of life toward newness in Jesus, a way of human restoration by praying for and blessing enemies with the evil crushing power of forgiveness. John's whole life screams, in the Messiah, God is doing the unexpected. By becoming a living, breathing departure from everything normal, John invites us to ask, is Jesus one who empowers me to be more moral while I live and act according to the common ways I see around me? Or does Jesus empower me to do something entirely new? Now, I'm going to leave you with some questions to reflect on, because we're going to pick this back up on Friday. Have you primarily thought about following Jesus as a way to be more moral in your otherwise normal life, or as a way to live an entirely different and new kind of life? How would you describe the difference between the two? We're reminded of the Roman oppression Israel faced in Jesus' day. For centuries, they'd been asking God to send a powerful leader to free them from their enemies. But when God shows up through Jesus, rather than doing what most expected, waging war on Israel's oppressors, he starts praying for and blessing the enemies of Israel with loving forgiveness. What about Jesus' approach to fighting evil do you find encouraging? Does this approach seem impossible or even crazy? As you consider, remember that John the Baptizer's story is about leaving all social and religious expectations to embark on a new journey with the Messiah, the Christ. Join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for that joyful meeting between Mary and Elizabeth, where your Spirit brought life and recognition of your great works. Just as Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit and recognized the blessedness of Mary and her child, may we also recognize and rejoice in your presence in our lives. Fill us with the same joy and faith, that we may proclaim your blessings and marvel at your wondrous deeds. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, amen. Amen, and happy Wednesday. I am now going to give you the numbers from around the world. I'm going to start here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. Now, typically the markets rally into a U.S. holiday. Yeah, the Dow got left behind. Well, let's see. Well, I think the market's not close to 1, so it could catch up. It's only down 21 points. The NASDAQ is up 136. The S&P 500 is up 21. The Russell 2000 is up 3. And the commodity basket, crude oil, is up 18 cents, trading 82.99 last. Gold is up $37.70, trading 23.7110 last. That's a gain of over 1.5%. And silver is rocking it, up $1.18, trading 30.84 last. That's a gain of almost 4%, or over $5,000 per contract traded. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei gained 506 points, 1.25%. Shanghai dropped 14. The Hang Seng gained 209. That's almost 1.25%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE up 49. The DAX up 210, which is almost 1.25%. The CAC up 93, and for the CAC, that's a gain of 1.25%. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a green day for the UK. And at the moment, it's a mixed Radio Wednesday here in the US of A, with the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Russell in the green. Now, the Russell's not in the green by a lot, only 3.5 points. The Dow is not deep in the red. It's only down 42 points. Remember, it only takes 20 points to get your goal for the day. So where we stand when the markets close today, all I can say is, historically, U.S. markets rally into a U.S. holiday. Okay? All right, then. News. What do we got? The first half of 2024 left little doubt for investors. This is an AI-fueled market. AI as in artificial intelligence. With big tech companies accounting for the majority of both stock market gains and earnings growth in the S&P 500 this year, investors are rightly focused on what's next for the AI trade. Looking past this year, however, investors are still mulling one of the most important and unsettled questions to emerge from the pandemic. What's normal now anyway? You always hear people talking about, well, this is the new normal. So what's normal now? Writing in a note to clients on Tuesday, the head of equity strategy research at RBC Capital wrote, that not only are investors still figuring out what these post-COVID new normals for the economy and stock market are, but that it's keeping many of them calm. She and her team met with clients and said, "What's been most interesting to us recently, particularly as the path of the monetary policy has been debated, is how the basic idea that the post-COVID era will look very different from the post-GFC era and even the post-tech bubble era, as it continues to resonate with many investors in the long-only community." Lots of traders and investors, mostly investors, but some traders too, only focus on the long side. That's one of the things we love about futures. You can be long, short again, all in the same hour. That's what the market or the chart in front of you tells you to do. The day-to-day discussion in markets is basically a running dialogue about what the Fed should, will, needs to, or can't do next. Hold rates, cut rates, and so forth. Much like sports debates about which team should have won last night's game and how a certain team can win tomorrow, daily and weekly market discussions look at what Jay Powell and company did in June, what they might do this month, and what they ought to do in September. Now, in case you didn't know, Wall Street is still worried about the regional banks. The stock of Dallas Regional Bank First Foundation plummeted following a $228 million investor infusion. The latest reminder that commercial real estate challenges for some regional lenders are far from over. I can't wait to wrap my arms around a nice commercial building and do something. But there's got to be pain. Now remember in 2007 when they were literally giving houses away? $300,000 homes were going for $100,000. But it's when there's blood in the streets, that's when you buy. If the commercial real estate sector brings blood to the streets, I'm going to find somebody that's got the money, and we're going to make up a partnership, and we're going to see just how many of those buildings we can buy. Because it always comes back, eventually. First Foundation said the investment from private equity giant Fortress and other firms would help it reduce its concentration of multifamily apartment loans. Roughly 52% of its portfolio is tied to such properties in places like Texas, Florida, and California. Its stock was down 25% this morning. We've been honest about the fact that some of these multifamily loans are on the lower yielding side, which has led to a decline in our earnings, according to First Foundation's CEO, Scott Kavanaugh. But the CEO assured analysts that there has been no degradation in our credit whatsoever. Last print, I think, was $4.99, down $1.57 on the day, or 24%. The market's reaction to the developments at a $13 billion bank is the latest example of underlying concerns that investors have about the ability of some regional banks to weather this challenging period. My prediction is that before it's all said and done, Jamie Dimon and his crew will own every bank in America, which is the same thing as the government owning every bank in America. That's just my opinion. Prepare yourself for the AI smartphone wars. Smartphone innovation has largely slowed to a crawl over the last few years. We're long past the days when each successive generation of phones offered up features that drove waves of excitement among consumers who would camp out for days outside the Apple Store. But that might be about to change thanks to artificial intelligence. At least that's what smartphone makers hope. Yes, we're about to enter a new phase of smartphone sales spin. Prepare yourselves for the great AI smartphone war. I'm still using an Apple 7. My grandson laughs at me, but anyway. To be fair, smartphone makers have been adding AI and machine learning capabilities to their devices for years, for everything from improving photo quality to spying on you. But generative AI technologies promise a whole new host of innovations, ranging from fresh photo editing tools and content summarization to live translation and transcription features, and of course, smarter digital assistants. Wow. Who'd have ever thought they could actually make Siri smart? Now, Alexa, she does a real good job. Siri, this is what I found on the web. Well, I can search the web myself. Google kicked things off last year, including AI features with its Pixel 8 line of smartphones. Samsung followed suit earlier this year with its Galaxy AI platform. And now Apple is preparing to enter the ring with Apple Intelligence, which is set to launch later this fall. Not to be outdone, Samsung and Google are also preparing their own major product events in the coming weeks that are expected to include even more AI news. Guys, be careful. We know that our phones track us, every search we make, but well, I'm just telling you to think long and hard about how much intrusion you want in your life. Now, what do they say when insiders start to sell their own stock? They say that's usually like a bad sign or something, right? Well, Mr. Jeff Bezos is about to sell $5 billion of Amazon shares. Now, in what world can we imagine the share price of Amazon going down? With all the government contracts they have, it's hard to imagine. And Jeff certainly doesn't need the money. But there's a reason he's selling $5 billion worth of his own company's stock. The proposed sale of 25 million shares was disclosed in a notice filed after market hours yesterday. The stock had hit an all-time high of $200.43 during the session. It has jumped more than 30% so far this year, outpacing the 4% gain in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. After the sale plan, Bezos would still own about 912 million Amazon shares, or 8.8% of the outstanding stock. He sold shares worth roughly $8.5 billion in February after the stock rallied 80% in 2023. Bezos is ranked the second richest person in the world with a net worth of $214 billion according to Forbes. He's also the founder of space company Blue Origin, which launched a 6-person crew to the edge of space in May. Amazon posted upbeat first quarter results in April as the Seattle-based technology giant rode the artificial intelligence wave. The company recently replaced Adam Selipsky as the head of its cloud computing unit with insider Matt Garman. I'm not predicting Amazon's going to crash. And, honestly, there's nothing wrong with taking some money off the table when you're sitting pretty. It's better to, when you're trying to sell 25 million shares. You don't want to do that in a declining market. Amazon is rallying this year, so maybe he's just being smart. I mean, after all, he's still going to have, what did I say? 912 million shares? Where did that go? Yeah. After this sale announced yesterday, after the bell, he will still own about 912 million Amazon shares, or 8.8% of the outstanding stock. God, I remember when Amazon first came online, back in the dot-com days, they made fun of him, they laughed at him. He was just an online bookstore. But then he made some pretty smart connections. And before you knew it, I mean, how many times a day does the Amazon driver show up at your house? I wish the truck with the toilet paper would show up at mine. I had to go buy some at the store the other day. Ouch, that was painful. All right, moving on. Logic 247 is our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. It's not just E-minis, it's also crude and gold and silver and euro and bonds. We're in week 309. Over the last 309 weeks, we've issued over 17,000 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on market structure and a very simple method I teach all of our passport holders in their one-on-one mentoring sessions. Now, this recap was done at 11:30 a.m. Eastern today. Thank you for that, Valerie. At the time of the recap, so far this week, and now we're only 3 days into the week. Well, the week starts Sunday night. So, since Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, when the markets open, we issued 40 alerts total so far. 3 of them never triggered. Still waiting on the outcome of 6. That gives us 31 actionable alerts, of which 5 or 16% would have been stopped out based on market structure and that simple process that I teach all of our passport holders in their private one-on-one mentoring sessions. Now, 309 weeks is, yes, a very long time. And 17,000 alerts is an awful lot of alerts. But long before we had Logic 247, we had the concierge trade alerts. They're a little bit different in a few different ways. Now, the Logic alerts are designed to help you learn how to read a chart. When you started school, the first thing they had to teach you, if you didn't already know how to read, they had to teach you how to read so they could teach you other stuff. It's hard to teach you geography and geology and biology if you can't read, right? And you got to be able to read the language of the land where you reside. Well, in the financial markets, it's not letters on a page that you have to read, but it's candlesticks and bars and trend lines and other things. So just like a first grader, when you decide to become a trader, you got to learn how to read the chart. Every chart tells a story. Now, the Logic alerts give you an entry price, an initial target, additional targets, and then a final trade to target. And I use those to teach you how to read the chart. Okay? Now, once you've mastered the Logic alerts, it's time to move on to the CTAs. Now, the Logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. because futures trade around the clock and we have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session and vice versa. The CTAs, however, are issued as a static report shortly after the Globex open. Today, we know is the Wednesday session, but it began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So at 6:05, 5 minutes after the open, all of our members and trial members had all of these targets. Now, the first thing you do when the report comes out is make note of where price is at the time the report comes out. Do it on the 30-minute chart of whatever markets you actually trade. It's always going to be between these two numbers. Then draw a line in the sand at the long target, a line in the sand at the short target. Those will serve as great visual cues to keep you on the right side of the street. If price gets above the 30-minute BBC, it's attempting to reach the long target. If price gets below the 30-minute BBC, it's attempting to reach the short target. Now, the BBC is the green line you're going to see on my charts. If price gets above the green line, we're bullish and anticipate higher prices. If price gets below the green line, we're bearish and anticipate lower prices. Now, that's relative to whatever time frame you apply the BBC. You can put that green line on a daily chart, a weekly chart, a monthly chart, a 30-minute chart, a 5-minute chart, a tick chart, a range chart. But it's all relative to whatever time frame you're using. Price gets above the green line, expect higher prices. Price gets below the green line, expect lower prices until proven otherwise. It's that simple. Now, remember with the logic alerts, I give you the entry, the initial target, the additional targets. This is where you learn to look left to spot those potential obstacles or targets, and you learn how price behaves at a weekly trading zone. Important because price is always trying to reach a weekly trading zone. From the moment the markets open Sunday night till they close Friday afternoon. If price is above the 30-minute BBC, it's trying to get to the weekly zone above. If price is below the 30-minute BBC, it's trying to get to the zone below. We've published the zone since December 14th of 2009. We're closing in on 15 years. They're published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, and once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They do not change in any way whatsoever. Beyond that, just don't complicate things. As long as you know which way the wind is blowing, it's pretty simple to reach your goal for the day. So, cue the daily chart. Do we have a new all-time historic high? Let's see. 55.88 versus 55.89.5. We have a new all-time historic high by 1.5 points. 89.5. 88. Now what? Can we close above the previous all-time historic high? Now, what's the market been doing all day? Did it just go straight up? No. If you look at the smaller time frames, the market dropped quite a bit, then it rallied, and it dropped, and it rallied. Okay, but the consensus among the institutions was that historical rally into a U.S. holiday. This is the green line, the BBC. When price gets below it, we expect lower prices. But when price gets above it, we expect higher prices. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green, and we call it the BBC, bull, bear, cross. The red and blue indicator, it's the CFMA1, but I refer to it as red and falling, bearish. blue and climbing, bullish. You'll notice it gives you a bit of a heads up before price actually crosses below the green line. And see, we knew way back here that price was likely to get above the BBC because it turned to blue and climbing. Now it turned to red and falling on the pullback, but we know the pullback holds more often than not. In this case it held, but in this case it didn't hold. In this case, it held. It holds more often than not. Now, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 days, the 62% fib extension has acted as support. Now we have a new all-time historic high of 1.5 points. It was 88, now it's 89.5. However, be very careful with long trades here because you're in uncharted territory. Looking left won't do you no good because there's nothing there. This price has never been here before. Okay? So, we're above red and falling. The step line crossed, which typically leads to a retracement to the BBC, because we consolidated sideways, that never happened, and the VVC actually rose to meet price. And that often sets the stage for a collapse. Will that come on Friday? I don't know. Will Globex markets open tonight? Yeah. Remember, 4th of July is a U.S. holiday. But it'll be thin holiday type trade. So I encourage you to take the day off. Now, maybe you don't trade the S&P. Maybe you trade stocks or crypto or Forex or ETFs. I want you to train yourself to spend 2 minutes every trading day with the daily chart of whatever you trade. Institutional traders, the ones who actually move price because of the size of their accounts and the size they trade in, they look at daily, weekly, and monthly charts the way you and I look at 30-minute charts, 5-minute charts, tick charts, and range charts. Again, it has to do with account size. So, by spending 2 minutes with the daily chart, you're literally looking over the shoulder of the deep pockets that move price. Had you been doing that today, boy, you'd be sitting pretty. The low of the session, 59.75. High of the session, 89.75, 50. So it's 30 points. Okay? Again, I don't trade the daily chart, but I go there to see what the deep pockets are doing. And then when I drop to my smaller time frames, the 30-minute is where all alerts are created. I call it my roadmap chart. Okay? I execute on a 7-tick range chart, just like Michael does in the live training room. In the Logic 247 channel, I told you there's over 17,000 alerts. Every one is a trend trade, as defined by the 30-minute chart, price, and the BBC. If price on the 30-minute chart is below the BBC, I only issue short alerts. Once price gets above the BBC on the 30-minute chart, I only issue long alerts. You'll notice that when price moves up to a zone, we expect resistance. When it drops to a zone, we expect support. Resistance, support, resistance. See how we consolidated here at the zone? That's what happens 70% of the time, consolidation, when price hits a zone. 20% of the time you get rejection. 10% of the time you get the slice. That's where price slices through a zone like it's not even there. I don't have a good example. Oh yeah, I do right here, today. See how this green candle sliced through the zone like it wasn't even there? The zone is 5570/71. See how that green candle sliced through it like it wasn't even there? And then it even continued higher. And then it came all the way back to the zone it sliced through. and then it continued in the direction of the slice. There was never any reason for you to think about trading to the short target because we never got below the BBC. You go, well, wait a minute, that's below the BBC. Yeah, but it never let go. See, it's still touching. You need a candle to open and close below the BBC to say that the pullback failed to hold. This held. This held. It holds more often than it doesn't. Okay, the Dow. Here's where we opened last night. Now remember, 5 minutes after the open, our members had these targets. Here's where we opened. We dropped. We couldn't quite get to the BBC. Red and falling turned to blue and climbing. That's bullish. You should be long like Donkey Kong. And then when this high can barely take out that previous high, that's a sign of weakness. And bang, down we go to the zone. The zone is 39,560/65. This low is 68. So we missed it by 3 points. But when the market finds support, it's going to go look for resistance, which it found at the BBC. Resistance, resistance, support. We trade every market exactly the same. Doesn't matter if it's futures, stocks, crypto, Forex, ETF. Trade every market exactly the same. Here's where we opened last night. We consolidated for many hours at the weekly zone on the Russell. And then we made our run this morning up to the target. We spiked it a little bit. Eventually, we made it up. Now, right here on this pullback, the pullback held, but it's almost like an obsessive compulsive thing. It raced all the way down to the zone and then bounced back up to close above the BBC, and that should make you want to be long this candle up to the zone where you expect resistance. Resistance has now sent the market back to support. If price can break below this zone, say about 2050, then you got a 4-point trade down to the target at 2046. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. Consolidation, consolidation, hours of consolidation, more consolidation. On the NQ, we opened right at the zone last night and we consolidated until about 4:30 this morning, caught a little pop, pulled back to the BBC, and then bang. Now, this zone is the high of this candle. Okay, so we, on a 30-minute chart, we ran through the zone like it wasn't even there. But then when that ran out of steam, look what happened. We reversed to the zone we sliced through. Now what will typically happen is price will continue in the direction of the slice. Does it happen 100% of the time? Be cautious of anyone that tells you anything happens 100% of the time. Does it happen more often than not? Oh yeah. Crude oil. Here's where we open, ran up to the zone and the BBC. That's resistance times 2. And that sent us down to the short target. Support sent us to resistance. Resistance sent us back to support. Support sent us back to resistance. Over and over again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. Now, gold, look at this baby. Price pull back to the BBC. And then we got a leg, hit the target, a retracement, a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement, a leg. And now look, you see that black step line is crossing blue and climbing? That's an indication that price is about to pull back to the BBC. Remember, pull back holds more often than not. Silver, look at this. From 29.80 to 30.80, that's $5,000 per contract traded. It only takes 2 pennies to get your goal for the day. On the euro, this is where we opened. Consolidation at the zone. We dropped. We actually did get below the BBC. Okay. Nothing's perfect. Then buyers came in and we got a leg and a retracement and a huge leg all the way up to the zone. Now you see how the black step line on the way up, it was on the left side of blue and climbing. Now it's crossed over to the right side. Not to be confused with the dark side, because with futures you can trade in either direction. But those 17,000 alerts in the Logic 247 channel, every one of those, as I said earlier, is a trend trade. Once you master trading with the trend, if you want to go into the world of counter trend trading, I'll help you. First, you got to show me you've mastered trading with the trend before you decide to start trading against the trend. There's nothing wrong with counter trend trading. But a counter trend trade does not have the same high probability, low risk that a trend trade has. See here, you get a leg, you get a retracement. Which way is the trend? Up. Pull back, get above the BBC, trend is up. Pretty cool, right? All right. So one last look at the daily chart. Do we have a new high yet? One more tick. We were at 89.5. We're now at 89.75. Let's wrap it up with our good word for the day. Yesterday we talked about giving your problems to God. Today, steps to forgiveness. And I do apologize. But I got to put you on hold for just a second. Take care of something important. I promise you I will be back. And Casey, I'll answer your questions when I get back. Okay, guys, I'm really sorry about that, but something I normally do when Michael takes over. But anyway, so we're getting ready to do our good word for the day and wrap things up. But there was a question. Thanks for going over the concierge alerts, logic alerts, concierge alerts. Appreciate the refresher. Do you try to focus on just a few of the markets for your personal trading? Personally, now I've traded the ES, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ, crude, gold. I've traded them all, but on a daily basis. I'm sorry, I got to put you on hold again one more time. Okay, sorry. But even though I've traded them all, and I trade them all exactly the same, the one I'm most in tune with, the one that I'm always looking at, and the one that I do trade is the ES. I like the ES for a number of reasons. There's plenty of liquidity around the clock. So if I need to get my points at 9 p.m., I can. Midnight, 4 a.m., 9 a.m., 12 noon, 2 p.m. Eastern. You follow me? Crude, gold, and the ES have good liquidity around the clock. But I've just spent so much time focused on the ES, going back to 2005. That's where I go to snag my 2 points a day and to be done. Now, you may find as you're getting your sea legs that you have an affinity for crude. I know we have some of our traders, like that's all they trade is crude. Some only trade the Dow. Some only trade the Russell. So you find out which one feels most natural to you and trade that one, okay? Now, overnight, the Russell and the Dow, they can get really thin. So I would only trade those during the day session. But on the overnight session, ES, crude, gold are all fine. Okay? All right. And thank you for your question. I always appreciate a good question. You have a happy and safe 4th as well. All of you have a happy and safe 4th. Now, I usually do this for the good word for the day. To become a member, go to mytradingiq.com. If you have questions, call 949-42-EMINI or email us support@cfrn.net. 9 out of 10 new traders fail because they don't have someone to teach them how to trade. Whether you want to be a baker, a banker, or a candlestick maker, you need somebody to teach you how to do the job. Sure, you can read books about swimming. You can watch videos of Mark Spitz swimming for a year. But the second you get in the pool, guess what's going to happen? You're going to drop like a rock. There is no overnight get-rich-quick scheme. Oh, I take that back. There's 100,000 get-rich-quick schemes. But that's what they are, is they're schemes, okay? Designed to separate you from your money before you even put on your first trade. The live training room, 2 hours a day, you're watching Michael put on and take off trades live in real time, explaining every move he makes, every trade he takes, the reason behind it, and the reason behind it never changes. It is a mechanical system. Now, you can stay with the mechanical system forever and make as much money as you want to make once you master it. But you got to show up, got to do the work, got to ask the questions, and you got to learn how to handle being stopped out. You do not have to become a discretionary trader like I am, okay? If you want to become a discretionary trader, once you've mastered the mechanical model and you're a member, I'll teach you my discretionary methodology. But, what Michael teaches you in the room is more than enough for you to be able to get your goal for the day and have the discipline to put the mouse away. Okay? Along with 2 hours of live training every day, a passport holder gets private one-on-one mentoring. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets, all time frames. Futures, stocks, crypto, Forex, ETFs. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. As I just showed you and show you every day, from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. Take advantage of that. As a passport holder, you also get the Logic 247 alerts, the concierge trade alerts, the weekly trading zones, and you're able to attend the members only workshop every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Of course, there won't be one tomorrow night because of the holiday. And when you become a passport holder, not only are you able to attend the members only meeting, but you get the golden key that opens all the private channels in Telegram. We have a private channel where we've been archiving the workshops for years. So if you wanted to, you could go watch years of workshops. Do you need to? Just show up every day, ask every question that pops into your head until you get to the point where you realize the question you just asked, you already know the answer to. The answer to the question is always going to be the same no matter what the question is, because you're dealing with a mechanical system in the live training room. There are hard-defined rules. There's no subjectivity. Show up, number one. Listen, learn, trade in your demo account till you qualify to go live. Ask every question that pops into your head. Before you know it, be ready to fly solo. But you got to do everything I just said. Plus, have the discipline that once you get that goal for the day, you'll put the mouse back in the wall safe behind your Van Gogh. Okay? MyTradingIQ.com. Waiting for you. Now, today, our good word for the day, this is just part one. Steps to forgiveness. If you took the whole Bible and you had to describe the entire Bible with just one word, would it be love? Would it be compassion? I think it would be forgiveness. Colossians 3:13 says, forgiving one another if anyone has a complaint against another. Scripture also teaches us that if you want God to forgive you, you first have to forgive anyone who's hurt you. That's a prerequisite for God to forgive you. Salvation is free. But to get God's forgiveness, you got to forgive those who've hurt you. The misery of living with unforgiveness. See, when you hold a grudge against somebody because they did you wrong, they don't suffer. You do. When you forgive them, you set yourself free. That's the beauty of it. Imagine if everybody in the world understood that concept and practiced it. When you hold on to resentment, you open the door to depression and even physical illness. Forgiving brings healing to your wounds and restores your joy. Here are 2 steps to help you forgive. Number 1, remember that you have been unconditionally forgiven. Recall God's grace towards you and the price Jesus paid for your forgiveness. By refusing to show mercy, you're like the man Jesus said was forgiven an enormous debt, yet was unwilling to forgive another man's paltry indebtedness to him. That's Matthew 18:23. The grace God has extended to you leaves no grounds whatsoever to refuse the same grace to the one who hurt you. Which brings us to point 2. Release the offender from the debt they owe you. And we're not just talking financial here. Now, you may be totally justifying saying, they owe me for what they did to me. Your friends may agree with you. The law may agree. And you may be thinking that the only way your offender will learn to do what's right is if they're made to pay for the wrong they did. But as long as you're holding on to your rights, you're chained to the past. It has you in its grip. And your future is being held hostage to the past's control over you. Do not let your past define your future. Your offender's sin against you was paid for by the same sacrificial love that canceled your sin debt. So they have the same need and right to forgiveness that you have. And there is more. Forgiveness is not just for their benefit, but for yours. Luke 6:37. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. That's our good word for today, part 1. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy, with His grace, and I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.